2, 3. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Plotlines. I'm your host, Connor, and today is an exciting episode. We're going over the Infinity Saga and the best and worst of Marvel. When it was in its prime, not when it's in its sort of defunct kind of aging corpse kind of thing. With me is Hope, and hopefully we'll be joined by another guest in due time. Welcome, Hope.
Glad to be here. This is
So,
fun. I don't usually get to be the one on the computer.
yes, I'm very excited to have you center stage. Are you scared of that?
Not too much.
Gotcha. Well, please, if you guys like what we're doing here at Plotlines, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you're looking for buying a rosary, please go to Bishop Sheen Rosaries, put in Plotlines 10, and you get 10% off your order. And there's a link in the description, so please check that out. But anyway, so let's start off with, first of all, Hope, have you been a long time Marvel fan?
Oh yeah. I was all about like the original 80s Spider-Man cartoon. I loved that. And then when I got older, I got more into the actual comics themselves. Mostly Spider-Man. Spider-Man was definitely my favorite. And then I grew up with the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, and say what you will, they have a soft spot in my heart. I know they're not great, but they have a soft spot in my heart because that's what I grew up with.
I think people mostly like Tobey Maguire Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So
they definitely had some very cringe moments, but they were pretty good.
Yeah, I was saying off air that it's not really my area of expertise, given sort of my age and stuff like that. So, but I'll take your word for it.
They're worth a watch if you're bored.
Yeah, well, I can't really, also wouldn't know where to find them, I guess. Are they on any like streaming platforms? I'm not really sure.
Not even sure, honestly.
And Sony doesn't have a streaming platform, I don't think.
I don't think so, no.
So yeah, it's like the only company that doesn't have a streaming platform.
Which is unfortunate.
I mean, for Sony, it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's unfortunate for us.
Yeah. I don't need another service. That is for sure.
Does anybody really need another service? Yeah. So, but yeah, no, it's kind of interesting how I got into my knowledge of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and just comic books in general was on a birthday I had. What was it? I was in high school and everyone was like standardized testing, and my grade had like a day off one day, and then the other day we were testing. Mm-hmm. But we had the day off on my birthday, and so I went to the movies, and I had never seen a Marvel movie before, and Captain America Winter Soldier was released, and honestly, I was kind of sheltered from a lot of violence in movies prior to that, which is kind of embarrassing. But so it was probably one of the most violent of the MCU, especially up until that point. I mean, yeah. I was not ready for spy thriller kind of setup, so that was just kind of wild.
Yeah, it definitely was a big change from, well, the Incredible Hulk was pretty kind of dark and violent, but I don't think that's even technically canon.
I think it technically is, because in the Avengers he mentions trying to kill himself. the Hulk mentions that he tried to kill himself, and that
True.
would make it canon, because I believe that was part of that story.
I don't know. I've heard differing reports on whether it is canon or isn't canon because it wasn't the same actor and blah 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 blah, and different directors and different teams and whatever.
Yeah, that's actually that's like the only blemish, sort of, in some ways, leading up to Endgame.
Yeah.
Of the entire MCU, which is pretty impressive, because
Yeah.
that was even pre everyone meeting up, so it didn't really matter that it was a different actor.
Yeah.
Coming together. But yeah, so I would say the MCU was obviously a success leading up, or lead through Endgame, but I think the cracks started to show with Endgame.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, Endgame had a lot of cringe, like, girl boss moments in it.
Yes, all the women showing up and
saving the day because the guys just couldn't get it done. Yeah.
Well, it's just like the odds of all of them showing up at once was pretty wild.
Yeah.
Jesse, are you here?
I'm here. I just came in. Yeah.
Okay. Whenever you're ready, just put your video on and.
Okay.
How's it going?
Good. How are you? Sorry for the
good
lateness. Rob did not tell me this was live. I was just thinking it was recording session. My bad.
I should have mentioned that. Sorry.
Nah, we can blame it on Rob.
Yeah. We'll blame it on Rob. But yeah, welcome. So do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. My name is Jesse. I'm also known by myself as a comic book curator online. I have a couple shows on my Daventry Studios channel on YouTube. One is Bring on the Bad Guys, where we talk about comic book villains, and the other is very much a self-flagellation show. I decided that I'm going to go through every comic book in Marvel history one by one. So I got 3 episodes in, and I'm starting to regret it, but I'm gonna keep it going.
That does sound like self-flagellation.
Yes.
But impressive. But yeah, so we were just talking about just generally how successful the MCU was leading up to Endgame, or through Endgame. So you're a longtime comic book nerd, to say the
Absolutely.
least.
Yeah.
What was your just general take of the transition, or them transitioning to movies, and sort of focus, and how well they put them from comic book to screen?
So I have a lot of opinions on that, but I think the primary opinion I have is that it's very clear, once Marvel actually let people start writing their movies that cared about the stories, that is when, the whole genre kind of took a shift for the better. And, Christopher Nolan too, on his side of things with DC, really bringing Batman back grounded with the Dark Knight stuff too. But I think, just seeing these stories, I got a chance to meet Anthony Russo after Endgame for like 2 seconds. And I just told him, I said, thank you so much. Like, thank you so much for bringing these characters that I, grew up with, was a huge fan, every Saturday morning, watched, 2 hours worth of Marvel cartoons, and to just see those things adapted properly on the big screen, and not like Fox would do with the X-Men. And like, oh, you called this Days of Future Past, and it's nothing like the actual story. So I think it's a real testament to the stories that, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby and all the writers that came after them and artists, put on the page and then were transferred to the big screen. And I think it's amazing what the actors and writers have done so far. So, yeah.
Yeah. Would you agree that things have sort of gone downhill a little, especially after Endgame, or what do you think about that?
I think so. I mean, I would say probably, yeah. Part of that is just, I think, and I mean, we'll see, is that, Marvel had so many great, talents jumping on board that were established, that knew what they were doing, from the very start, Downey, especially, the Russos, Jon Favreau. And now they are starting, to, branch off with kind of the second tier of characters. And I think that's a very big bite to take off or to chew. I think liked some of the stuff, post Endgame more than some people, but I do think that they're having a challenge where they are maybe bringing aboard some people that are not quite as seasoned, and it kind of shows. So that's kind of where I think, but they have time to right the ship. So
yeah, my thing with the future of it, at least, I want to focus more on the past and in between Iron Man and Endgame, but it just seems to me that the characters that they're picking are very sort of centralized more on what is good what they think will profit culturally versus what are the best characters that they could put through. Like, I was seeing someone in the chat mention Nova. No, the Nova Corps really wasn't expanded upon, and they've been kind of dumped on the side for the Guardians of the Galaxy, and just sort of having basically a lot of their legacy heroes, a lot of the heroes that have had long stints are kind of just being phased out, and they're not getting replaced with other heroes with long traditions, but just getting replaced by ones who some of them only introduced in the last 10 to 15 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point too. And the running joke I like to make about DC is that Superman's had one movie in the past, one solo movie in the past, whatever, 15, 20 years, and we're on the third Ant-Man movie next year, and we're only going to be on the third Guardians of the Galaxy movie. And but the thing that those characters had going is, like you said, they're older characters. I mean, the Guardians are more new, but they've been able to build those characters up. So you have the fan base for Captain America and Thor and Hulk and Iron Man, and you just have to make it bigger with the movies. Whereas even big Marvel fans are not. I mean, I love the Shang-Chi movie, but definitely not like a big named character. Same with Eternals. So yeah, and I wonder how much of that is them losing 3 out of the 4 big, well, I guess 2 out of the 4, like the big actors in Hemsworth and Downey and Evans, more or less. Or sorry, not Hemsworth, Evans. They still have Hemsworth, but yeah, I think once they figure out they're bringing in the Fantastic Four and X-Men, I think they're gonna be a little better off. But I do think right now, I think they would be better for them to do, like you said, bring in like Nova, bring in characters that are a little more established rather than like Ironheart and Jane Foster's Thor, even though I did enjoy that better than I thought I was going to.
Yeah, they definitely did Jane Foster a little better than I thought they might do. But I also think that was just because Natalie Portman has a little more acting chops than a lot of the female actresses, or a lot of the actresses that they are usually hiring. I mean, she has much longer established career, as well as, not to mention, being in the movies prior, almost from the beginning. But anyway, so going back to sort of the the original, I guess, is it phase 3? Is that when Endgame ends? The end of phase 3 is Endgame?
Yeah, I think technically the end of phase 3 was Far From Home, Spider-Man Far From Home.
Oh, right. Okay.
But yeah, more or less.
Yeah, I forget about that one because it's like, why wouldn't they just end a phase with an Avengers movie? Even though phase what just ended? Was that 5? did 4 just end?
I think 4 will end with the next Black Panther movie.
Okay, yeah, because that one Phase 4 exists without even an Avengers movie in it. But yeah, so I mean, it seems like the beginning of this whole thing was bringing together, bringing together heroes on one screen and developing them prior. And that had not been done before. And it caught fire with having good actors, good writers, and people that just knew what they were doing behind the scenes. And then to get bought out by Disney sort of elevated the money capacity as well. So Hope, who is your favorite character of that whole build-up? Who was who is the character that got you hooked in the movies, at least?
I really like Loki. Yes,
Okay.
fangirl. Woo, Loki, Tom Hiddleston. Yeah. I think that Tom Hiddleston is just a fantastic actor. He's very, very able to fit himself into roles. He really just gets into it, but it's still him, which I really like. But close second would probably have to be Black Widow.
Okay.
Yeah, just because what girl doesn't love the total badass, super sexy secret spy?
Well, I mean, usually it'd also be what man wouldn't either necessarily.
Very true. Very true. Why do you think they cast her?
Maybe to detriment of men, but
yeah.
But what about you, Jesse?
See, I'm known amongst my friends as really liking the underdog characters and the not famous ones. So like, I was super stoked for the Ant-Man movie like 10 years before it came out. I mean, waited for the motorcycle to go by. Loki is definitely up there. I think at first it was Iron Man, just because Downey was just so good. But that evolved into Captain America's, and he is, Chris Evans did such an amazing job bringing him to life, and so did the writers, and yeah, he and Loki is another one of my favorites, and Hiddleston is just killing it in everything that he touches with the character. So yeah, and of the new ones, I'm excited to see what they do with Yelena, because Florence Pugh is a really good actress, and I'm also excited to see Daredevil and Kingpin in the real MCU now. So
yeah, okay, yeah, all good picks. I would say I'll just round it out with Iron Man. I'd been a Captain America fan because that was the first movie that I saw of the MCU. I was saying, Jesse, that it was actually the first one was Captain America Winter Soldier was the first Marvel movie I actually saw, which is kind of a weird place to start. And then the Avengers after that, and then I went back and stuff like that, but that was all accidental. I didn't know what I was doing prior. But anyways, Captain America to me, in sort of the post Winter Soldier era, kind of, or maybe even maybe post Civil War too, just kind of fizzled out to me. He sort of became not much of, like, I always thought that Captain America should be a anchor to the past, but they never really used that in any capacity after maybe Winter Soldier. It was sort of like he had already sort of accommodated himself to the newer world, to modernity, and it just seemed kind of odd because he basically has the he was this silent generation basically. And it's just kind of weird to me, and maybe that actually is how the silent generation has accommodated itself to modernity, so maybe it is accurate, but it just kind of disappointed me. But I think Iron Man is kind of like the reverse. He sort of sort of engages with modernity in the beginning and slowly suddenly finds his way to a normal, a sort of real life, a family, and then sacrifice.
Mhm.
To his ending is probably the best part, and not to mention it sort of gets him out of the way of possibly getting ruined in the post Endgame world. I think that's kind of and even Captain America kind of did that too. He sort of exited at maybe the right moment. Or maybe the reason or maybe them exiting is what has, hurt the MCU, as Jesse stated. So yeah, so no one's taking Thor, interesting enough. Poor
The
Thor.
fangirls would revolt.
My thoughts with Thor are he sort of is a bit bipolar in the MCU. Is he doesn't fully, especially by the time of the most recent one, he just isn't acting like royalty. Like, he is royalty. He is like, that is his sort of, that's how he grew up. That's how he's known everything to be. And he sort of just gives up on all of that for comedy purposes, I guess. And I thought Ragnarok was decent because it was done by it was written by Christopher Yost, who I'm pretty sure is a comic book writer. Is that right, Jesse?
Yeah.
Yeah. And he also it made his own animated universe. Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, and there was an X-Men TV show. And I thought those were probably maybe the best sort of combination of movie Marvel, as well as maybe, comic book Marvel. What do you think, Jesse? Did you watch those shows?
Yeah, I was a big fan of what Yost did. I really liked the Avengers show that he did, and I thought they did a great job of like world building too. And that used to be the main thing was anime shows for so many years, because generally Marvel is pretty solid animated shows. And then when they started making the movies, I don't want to say the quality has necessarily dropped off, but I think it's clear that they're more focused on the live action aspect of things. But yeah.
Well, it seemed to me that they sort of took comic books as they're normally seen, mashed it with a little bit of the MCU sort of popular characterizations, and then sort of told regular comic book stories within that. Is that a good synopsis?
I think that's pretty good synopsis. Yeah.
Yeah.
Accurate.
And then also, I'm much more of a fan of having Hank Pym be the Ant-Man, at least at the start. That's one of the things that of the Ant-Man movie itself, I was kind of disappointed that they went sort of the Scott Lang kind of route. Is that it's sort of all this sort of going towards starting with sort of the characters that take over for other characters, just kind of cheapens or sort of ruins any transition storytelling that they could do in the future. Like, you can't, once you have Scott Lang, you can't go back and do Hank Pym, because that's just not possible. And I mean, it allows you so much more fruitful adventures, maybe, as well as all the other characters were used to interacting with this one character, but then they never really get to interact with them. So you sort of lose some of the, like, I guess, some of the interactions that you would see in comic books. And that kind of goes with sort of not having the Fantastic Four and Spider-Man at the beginning. What do you think of the introduction of Spider-Man when he was sort of introduced? Either one of you can take your take.
I personally, no hate to my brain is just not functioning right now, but no hate to the current Spider-Man actor. But I mean, I grew up with Tobey Maguire, you know, fairly adult Spider-Man. And then they switched to the one-off movie that just flopped because everything just looked awful. And then now he's just like this tiny high school kid. And I don't know, it just kind of made it lackluster where everyone's like, oh, protect the kid, don't get involved. And it's like, Spider-Man's supposed to be like awesome. And not like, oh, I'm just a kid, I don't know what to do, I'm just gonna mess this up. I don't like, he's supposed to, you know, be kind of zany and have his little comebacks and his little quips, but it just kind of falls flat for me having him be like this kid.
Yeah.
No hate to young folks like yourself.
That's fine. I just look at the Spider-Man and I'm like, I could write you so much better as like somebody, a Spider-Man of my generation. I feel like is you know, it just, he's treated like sort of the standard really boring high school student, and sort of whatever whatever the media wants you to imagine high schoolers to be like. And that I mean, there probably are a bunch of high school students that are like that, you know, that's probably not, you know, but it loses any element of, okay, this person's interesting, and not just a, you know, the standard person I know, a couple doors down or whatever.
Yeah. The awkward
Jesse,
smart guy stereotype.
Exactly. Jesse, what do you think?
Well, that's a really interesting take because I, you know, grew up with, you know, the 90s Spider-Man animated show, and also, you know, knowing like the comics and his, you know, comic story. And he, you know, with Tobey Maguire, who did a fantastic job as Spider-Man, people were used to the, you know, the college age Spider-Man. And for a long time in the comics, he was, you know, the high schooler who was not that interesting, not that popular, really super smart. And so I'm a huge fan of the way they ended No Way Home.
Say that again.
Because I felt like it just
shut out.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm a huge fan of how they ended No Way Home. Did that time work?
Hold on.
Okay.
No, it didn't. Okay, go again.
Okay. What was I saying? Oh, I'm a huge fan of how they ended No Way Home, because it wiped that slate clean. Because I thought the way they introduced him was fine, as like, you know, Iron Man recruiting him. But then I definitely got too much of the he's Iron Man's sidekick for you know, the next movie. So am I coming through okay?
No, it was we weren't able to hear much, and
I could hear fine.
Sorry.
So it might be your connection.
What?
I said I could hear him fine. So it might
really?
be your connection.
Oh, maybe that actually is probably true. Yeah, that's fine.
Jesse, Rob says hi.
Oh, hi, Rob. Hope has 3 bars on her connection right now. And Connor, you had 1 last time I saw.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Now you're back.
Interesting enough. Well, I mean, it says excellent connection. I don't know why that's the case on the stream. But anyways, sorry. Try again. Maybe we'll get through it as time.
I was a big fan of the way No Way Home ended. Just because it kind of set or cleaned the slate, however you put that, and let him step out of the shadow of everything that he came into. Like, you know, he's not the, you know, the Stark sidekick, the guy who's taking over for Spider-Man. Now he gets to, or sorry, for Iron Man. Now he gets to be on his own, and he's not, you know, connected to, you know, anybody, basically. And so I'm excited to see him from here, because I really do like Tom Holland as as Parker and as Spider-Man. So I'm hoping that now that he kind of has that fresh slate where he's not connected to Iron Man, he's not connected to anybody anymore. He can be more of that. And he's going to college too, ostensibly, assuming a college accepts a guy with no records anywhere.
Yeah.
But so, yeah, I'm excited. I want to, hopefully see where they're going to go next. If Sony doesn't ruin too many things with their side of things. So
Yeah,
that's
I would say Sony, it seems like, has done in some ways just in the last, couple years compared to how Marvel's doing. They seem to be doing a little better on their end than I thought they would be doing. And that I did like that Spider-Man movie. It was very good. I liked how it ended. Agreed. It gave him a good fresh slate. So I feel like that one was surprisingly good. I think I think the Doctor Strange part, the way Doctor Strange has been treated recently, is probably the only downfall in my opinion.
Yeah.
Just he seems like an idiot now suddenly,
Yeah.
which doesn't make any sense for the character in any
No.
capacity. But also the Doctor Strange movie, the first one, I felt was too boring. Any thoughts on that?
I mean, I probably would be nicer and not call it boring, but I do think it was a little more lackluster than it could have been because they were focusing on an origin. And I still, my opinion is that the biggest acting waste in the MCU to this point is Mads Mikkelsen playing Caecilius in that movie and not getting a chance to play Doctor Doom because he is absolutely a phenomenal actor.
They probably could cast him as Doctor Doom now, and no one would really remember though.
As long as they didn't show his face, I think that probably would work out.
Yeah.
They just they could just give him give him somebody else's face, and then
there you go.
So basically, someone else plays the character in the beginning before he's evil, or not before he's evil, before he's scarred, I guess. Or is he scarred in the beginning? I actually don't. I get some of the movies confused with the comics.
In the comics, he gets scarred when he puts the mask on originally. No, sorry, I apologize. That's incorrect. He gets scarred in a explosion in his dorm room after he does an experiment that his classmate Reed Richards told him not to do, and it explodes in his face, and of course he's so prideful that he blames Reed for sabotaging his experiment, and so that's why he has a scarred face. And then years later he actually becomes Doctor Doom and gets the mask. But
isn't he also like the king, the ruler of a country? How does that work in the comics?
Yeah, so if anybody out there is looking to catch up on some amazing mythology from a comic book character, Doctor Doom is absolutely where to start because he has just got so many twists and turns. So he, just a quick synopsis, is he is a gypsy, son of a gypsy couple, and his mother is regarded as a witch, rightly or wrongly. I don't quite remember that part, but essentially the leader of his country, which is Latveria, either kicks out or wipes out all the gypsies, whichever works, and then kills his mother. And Doom escapes and is basically homeless as a child, and they send him he eventually gets sent over to the US to study because he's a genius. And then he studies, does his thing. Then he kind of does the Batman thing for a while and seeks knowledge and arcane mysticism all over the world, and then shows up back in Latveria, takes out the leader of the country, and puts himself in instead. So, and then every year, once a year, I think on Halloween or something, maybe not Halloween, once a year he goes down and battles Mephisto for his mother's soul. And it's just, there's a lot about Doctor Doom that's just crazy and intense. And he's one of my favorite characters. So
gotcha. No, that makes sense. He has been one of those characters that I've just seen from afar, been very interested in. But yeah, how did we get into Doctor Doom? I can't. Oh, was it Doctor Strange?
Doctor Strange, Mads Mikkelsen.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Hope. What
Boring
do you
Doctor
think of
Strange.
What do you think of the movie?
I liked it. I think they did spend a little too long on like the world building and the origin story, and not enough time and effort into like the confrontation with Dormammu. That that could have been this epic, and they reduced it to a time loop to annoy Dormammu until he gave up.
Yeah.
I would say that this sort
Although
of
I will say that's probably the funniest part of all of the MCU for me. Dormammu, I've come to bargain. Smash. Dormammu, I've come to bargain. Yeah.
Yeah. No, true. It's definitely an entertaining way to end, but it also does seem easy in some ways.
It was kind of
but-
cheap.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. But I thought also it just seemed kind of like Iron Man meets Hogwarts in some ways. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like the whole school. What is the school thing from the comic books? In my research, I never came across something like that in anything Doctor Strange related. Jesse?
I was never a comic Doctor Strange fan. I was mostly Spider-Man when I was in the comics.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I would say not quite like it is in the movie. There is very much the like go to Camertage, have the Ancient One teach you, but it's very. I guess I'm definitely not an expert on like Tibetan like monk mysticism or something, that kind of thing at all. But it's more of like it's less of a school and more of a like experience and mentorship. And you don't see a lot of other people around. Like there's not this big, army training. Marvel did a couple years ago start a series, which I haven't really read much of, but I've heard a lot of good things, called Strange Academy. And that is definitely Marvel meets Hogwarts, because that is the magic characters like Doctor Strange, Scarlet Witch, Brother Voodoo, all being essentially teachers for these young magicians and sorcerers in the MCU. And it's done pretty well for a story standpoint, although I haven't read much of it. So
Gotcha. I love how you currently look like you're a shadow in the darkness.
You're just anonymous.
Yep.
You're like a secret source at the moment of all Marvel information.
The forbidden comic book knowledge.
Yes.
And even it says Zoom user at the bottom of your thing, so it's like, are you working for S.H.I.E.L.D. now?
Yes, now well, Hydra actually. Sorry.
Oh, okay. It's now Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Hail Hydra!
Oh no, Hope's Hydra too. I'm doomed.
Are you kidding? I would never be on the good guy's side.
Okay.
You've seen how I tweet.
That's
ones are much
true.
more.
You do tweet like a member of Hydra.
You kidding? I'd be following around Loki. What can I do to help?
Yeah, but Loki would confuse you half the time because he'd be like switching sides whenever it's convenient.
My life is confusion. Same old, same old.
Okay. Yep. Okay. Anyways, also like the about the Hogwarts thing, like literally during the last Doctor Strange movie, when I was watching it recently or for the first time, and when Scarlet Witch shows up to attack Camertage, I'm literally like, okay, this is just Voldemort attacking Hogwarts. What'd you say?
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
Jesse?
I said Voldemort. I just said Voldemort. Yeah.
Yeah. No, like seriously, it was like,
yeah,
like I and he just takes everyone out pretty much easily, and like it just seems that one just seemed a really weird, like, this is happening now kind of thing, without much sort of setup, at least.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's just the most Hogwartsy thing to me. And I think of Doctor Strange usually as sort of a loner kind of, or like not loner completely, but sort of loner with Wong. And
Yeah.
and then appearing with to assist other people as well as fight, mystic bad guys, which didn't really seem to, or stopped sort of being it, like it seemed to happen in Spider-Man, except for he was totally seemed stupid, and then after that, he sort of became dumb again, or kept being dumb, and even, I guess, even more dumb. But yeah, so Iron Man was the beginning, though, of the MCU, and it sort of brought in such a sort of understandable character. I feel like this is sort of the playboy character who decides that he needs to change his life because he's realized he hurts other people, he hurts people he loves and stuff like that. And I feel like with Marvel movies, sometimes they go to the point, like up to the point where it would be like amazing, like where they like cross, where like they never go into actual morality. They just sort of they sort of give here they sort of, what's the word, they suggest some sort of morality, but then they never explicitly state any sense of any kind of morality.
Yeah.
And I feel like Iron Man is the one movie that it gets the closest thing to that, especially when he states that he thinks he's been sent, or he believes he's living here for a reason because he could have easily died in the cave. And I feel like that was sort of, in some sense, the highest point of Marvel storytelling on a sort of human level. What do you think, Hope?
Yeah, the first Iron Man movie definitely set a very high bar for the rest that would follow, for the rest of the MCU. It set this very high bar of just a great storyline, fantastic acting, awesome special effects, and as well as this great, kind of redemptive arc where, at first he's just this, this guy that you wouldn't want to hang out with. He's a jerk. And then he gets to the point where, okay, he's relatable.
Yeah.
He's learning from his mistakes. He's changing. And, it's a good story that's being told. But you do make a great point, Connor, that, it kind of toes the line of, oh, we're going to say that this is a good thing. This is moral. This is, trying to really get to a better point. And then they just kind of step back a little bit. They don't actually explicitly say it.
Yeah, I think that a lot of it is sort of based more on characters. If it's good for the character, then it is good. And in a lot of the ways, then it's true that it's good because the character benefits from it. But that's how they sort of characterize, sort of, it's very utilitarian in a lot of ways regarding its sort of what is good and what is bad and stuff like that.
Most of the good things that these characters are doing, while they may be good and benefit others, they're often doing it for selfish reasons. There's not a ton of pure altruism in that they're doing, hey, this is gonna really suck for me. I'm gonna suffer for this, but I'm doing it for other people. Most of what is done for selfish reasons.
Yeah, I feel like Spider-Man is one of the ones that does the opposite in the end, which is nice. It's a good mess. A lot of terrible comics, and then that's transitioned into sort of the movies. That sort of sacrificial element is very helpful to see sort of in that, as well as, and like Captain America, you could see that in some ways, but the problem is he doesn't have a lot to lose.
No,
he actually has like nothing to lose. What do you think, Jesse?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I was just thinking as you guys were talking, like, what would, if there are any other examples? And I think probably after Iron Man, I think the best example of like a morality or a teaching thing is the first Ant-Man movie, because it's about being a good father. Like, that's what, eventually when you get down, like, when Scott goes to jail, gets out of jail, and then he falls back in, and basically Hank Pym's like, listen, put up, like, are you going to be the man your daughter wants you to be? Are you going to be the hero your daughter thinks you are? I think is the line. And you got a choice to do it. You can go sit and rot in your cell, or you can put on the costume and we're going to go, do something good. And it is a very like line in the sand, like where Hank goes, I found you, like I had my eye on you. Here's the mission. Do you want it? Or do you want to, sulk your life away? And Spider-Man also, especially in No Way Home, very sacrificial too. But I think that was one of the reasons why I liked that first Ant-Man movie so much, because it was so, like, it was a heist movie, which I love, but it was also a heist movie about a dad trying to be a good dad to his daughter and redeeming himself. And and then I don't know, in a sense, I think definitely not at the same as those levels, but Guardians of the Galaxy 2, where Star-Lord has this pseudo chance, because he's being brainwashed by Ego, to like essentially be, a god and take over the universe with his dad. And, I almost feel like Ego puts that thing about his mom out there because Ego thinks he's won. But Peter's love for his mom is transcendent of that, and is the thing that breaks him out. And then you see Yondu also sacrifice himself for Peter. So again, you have this whole fatherhood message, like, I love the Yondu thing of, Ego may have been your father, but he wasn't your daddy. And it's just very rough, but very like, what does a father really do? Like, yeah, they may totally mess up, but this is what in the end the father figure does for the son figure. So I cry. I think that's the only MCU movie where I've cried was Guardians 2, when Yondu dies. Well, when they do the fireworks at the end with the spaceships coming back with the Ravagers coming back and Sylvester Stallone. But yeah, I would say sometimes they do definitely like try to walk that line without having something concrete to fall onto.
I think that really comes from sort of their desire to have gods sort of in sort of superhero universe anyways, as sort of like, you don't have a lot of lines sort of anymore like Captain America, where he's I think Black Widow in the Avengers says, calls Thor, they're basically gods, and Captain America says, there's only one God, ma'am, and he doesn't dress like that.
Yeah.
Like,
I love that line.
Like, that's a great line, and that's what I mean about like Captain America, like the element of him being from the 40s sort of disappears, like after the Avengers and stuff like that. He completely sort of loses the 40s mentality, or the like in sort of how he interacts with the world. But it's sort of, I think maybe Joss Whedon probably had just a better sort of understanding of where all the characters came from to give them sort of a basic understanding. And even Daredevil doesn't really get down. Daredevil can't be understood by a lot of these writers because they have a fictitious understanding of what it means to be Catholic.
Yeah.
And so Daredevil's spirituality is basically replaced with sort of somehow it's kind of weird to me. It's like the pacifist, it's always pacifist, and like he's battling the idea that he's supposed to be a pacifist when there's no element of pacifism that is directed upon him by his religion. And so it's just kind of a funny thing, is it's sort of this false element that is being forced upon him but the morality or sort of his religion is not actually brought forward into any fullness, where they could have a really interesting story if they actually delve deep into what it really means.
Right.
But yeah. So I feel like it's a question sort of, how do you do that in comic books? How do you do that in comic book movies? And maybe it's because a lot of the writers were very much secularists when they created their comic book superheroes. They were sort of heroes for the time, specifically with like Captain America. He's just a hero for fighting Nazis and then a hero for fighting commies.
Yeah.
But it's all just fighting something in the world without sort of having any real baseline, real what's the word, foundation in anything that is not just sort of dependent on the time period.
Right.
If what you're doing is only based on the time period, you're not going to have a strong sort of sense of what is right and what is wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And coming from like a writer's standpoint, one of the things, and I don't know if this is really accurate, but this is something that I like have gotten the sense, is that sometimes I think the people that write the most stark, like solid morality into their stories are atheists. And I think it's because, at least in the comic, I would say, generally in popular culture, probably not so much, but like Alan Moore is, a self-proclaimed, pagan, naturist. He wrote Swamp Thing and all that stuff. And there is I wish I knew it by heart. There's this absolutely beautiful moment in Swamp Thing where basically Swamp Thing has to go to hell to find the soul of someone and bring them back. And Swamp Thing sees all the suffering and he's like, what kind of God would do this? And Etrigan, who's a demon, is walking with Swamp Thing, is basically giving him the tour and taking him to where he wants to go. And Etrigan only talks in rhyme in a lot of his comics. And there's this beautiful like couple stanza rhyme that Etrigan has about how God would have never done this. Like these people are all there because they chose to be. And it's gorgeous. And Joss Whedon too. Joss Whedon's an atheist, and yet there was a response I actually made to Bishop Barron when Age of Ultron came out, because he was saying, oh yeah, Vision is like, the Ubermensch, kind of character that Whedon is, creating. And because Whedon's an atheist, so he's going to put his vision on this. And I, in my response, brought up the line that you brought up, Hope, was, okay, but yeah, in the last movie, he just wrote an absolutely amazing line about, Captain America and his faith. So Whedon, I think, has that ability to just plug himself into who characters actually are and disconnect himself from them, more or less.
Agreed. The only thing I would say about what you said about atheists being good at writing morals is, I think the two different types of people who are good at writing morals are the people that are really believe what they believe, kind of thing. Not just like, so if you're a Christian and you have such a strong sort of in-depth understanding of what you believe, and as well as if you're an atheist and you have you're well versed in what you believe, I feel like then that is where you can have a good sort of structure of what morality is, at least from your perspective. You can and every good writer should be able to write characters that believe different things, because otherwise you're not going to have very interesting characters, because they're all going to believe the same thing, and you can't have that. And yes, I think the stereotypical, I think the like evangelical type of Christian who sort of is only sort of understanding of sort of the world and morality is in like the last 70 years or whatever. I feel like those like in a lot of really terrible art, they don't know how to write just in general because they don't know how to either put their own beliefs on the page or they don't know how to put anybody else's.
Mhm.
But that I think comes with just, are you a good writer and are you a bad writer? And I think Christians generally just don't put the time into being a writer, generally speaking. If you
Mhm.
just look at Hollywood, if you look at who writes novels in general, or comic books, you don't find any type of Christian for the most part. And I think that generally is more comes from sort of a puritanical understanding of what sort of what is entertainment good. Like
Yeah.
from a puritanical perspective, no entertainment is good. So if you and that's sort of been the dominant Christian perspective that has, in the American sort of understanding for at least 200 years probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, does that also sound accurate, Jesse?
I think so. Yeah, and I think there's a lot of truth in that, where you can go back and pick out, of course, the good writers, but I do think there are a lot of examples of people not being able to really grasp who they are writing, especially religious characters. I would say probably, and of course I'm in tune with when Catholics are written wrong, but I'm sure that you run into a lot of Protestants written wrong, and I don't know, Hindus written wrong, and I'm sure that's probably a fairly common thing by people that are not interested in really putting themselves in those shoes.
Yeah. So what do you guys think is the best of the MCU from Iron Man to Endgame?
How many do you want?
What's the one best, like the best movie?
I think Infinity War is the best one.
Hope?
Personally, for me, I liked Black Panther best.
Interesting.
I thought that there was just this amazing amount of world building and character development and prejudices being genuinely overcome.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought, and especially since I'm so bad with names, the actor who played the Black Panther,
Chadwick
that
Boseman.
that he did that whole movie with terminal cancer and nobody knew it.
Mm-hmm.
That he did all of that, that he was able to just put aside however much pain and discomfort he was in and still do that awesome acting. It just blows my mind, honestly.
Yeah.
Because I've got a headache and I can't function. And he's doing this incredible acting with stage 4 cancer. It's wow. Jesse, though, since you did bring up the Swamp Thing, how much did you hate the 2005 movie?
Wait, are you talking about Man-Thing
or the Man-Thing? Yeah.
I've never watched that. It was you
didn't miss anything.
When I saw the reviews, I was
so bad. It was so bad. I watched it just for giggles because I was on a horror movie kick, and I was just like, "This is so bad."
I've heard rumor that the Halloween special is going to include Man-Thing and actually bring him into the MCU.
Oh, that would be awesome.
I don't know how true that is, but
wait, what's the Halloween special?
So apparently it's going to star Werewolf by Night and Elsa Bloodstone, and the villain, quote unquote villain, is going to be the Man-Thing. And Man-Thing in the comics is basically mindless, so he's not really a hero or a villain. He's more of a force of nature. So we'll see. I don't know if that's accurate or not. That's just something that I've heard tumbling around, but we'll see.
Yeah. So my favorite is Winter Soldier. I actually stick with the first movie I ever saw of Marvel. I think sort of the espionage part is just that genre is more appealing to me. as well as sort of just the I don't know. There's the whole element of just sort of it's impressive taking down such a like massive intelligence apparatus or whatever, and also the whole infiltration part is so interesting to me. And then that also affected the Agents of Shield show so profoundly, and that sort of that all of that together just kind of makes such an impressive like dramatic change in the MCU regarding like who can we rely on for support? Who do the heroes rely on for support? Well, now it's nobody.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, which both also kind of makes me kind of sad going forward. Like, it would be nice to have Shield in a real existence, in the movies going forward. And one of the sad things of sort of putting it in the TV show, because then once the TV show sort of loses touch with the movies, it's basically non-existent.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah. Sorry, Jesse, what was yours again?
Infinity War, but I put Winter Soldier as number 2, just okay. So you're aware.
What? Yeah. So explain to me why Infinity War was the best in your mind. That's
because Thanos won in the end. Like that's the end. I know that sounds really rudimentary, but it's such a masterpiece in that, like, obviously, like, Endgame is where everything, comes back and it gets, brought to the surface. But in Infinity War, you're really looking at step one of all the, like, the post-credit scenes of like everything going on behind the scenes. Like, here it is. Okay, this is Thanos. Is like, it starts and dumps you into, like, Loki's dead in the first 10 minutes, and it just instantly takes you on this trip where it's like everything is apocalyptic, everything's crashing down, the heroes, like, you're so used to the heroes winning and they don't. And Stark says this in Endgame, where he wanted the suit of armor around the world and he's mad at Cap because Cap failed. I mean, you said we'd fail as a team, kind of thing. And just the heartbreak and the different, just how it was executed as a story, when you're jumping to Wakanda, to outer space, to Europe, and wherever, all these places that you're going. And just like, I still remember sitting in the theater, like, realizing, like, this movie's going to be over soon. They can't win. Like, there's, like, just like from a storytelling standpoint, like, how are they going to win this? And just feeling that despair along with these characters of slowly realizing what's going to happen. And then I think the biggest gut punch is when Scarlet Witch kills Vision, and you're already heartbroken that she had to kill Vision, and then Thanos just, like nothing, turns back time, rips it out and kills him again. And it's just this gut punch after gut punch, and it's just leaves you feeling something when you're leaving the theater. And that's why I think it's it may not be the one I enjoy watching the most, like the one I would put in if I'm want to have fun, but I think just the pacing of the show was just absolutely incredible. Of the show, I said, but movie.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think that your description of it is pretty awesome. The fact that the villain wins is truly the sort of the greatest element of Infinity War. Also, I just gotta love the way Thor is, that whole movie. Thor in Ragnarok and Infinity War is one of my favorite characters, sort of Thor. But then he sort of completely goes a completely different direction starting in Endgame, which is one of the things I think is kind of the downfall of Endgame. So, but what else is, or Hope, what's your least favorite Marvel movie between that?
It would probably have to be Endgame.
Okay.
Just the wokeism, the
Girl
and
power.
even not even necessarily the movie itself, but the bad press that just surrounded it of, oh, they're body shaming Thor, and oh, girl power, and all that. It turned me off of it so much that it didn't matter what happened in it. Just like with Captain Marvel, I could not watch it. I could not. I saw some of the press and I was just like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't deal with this feminist crap. No girl power, no girl boss, whatever. And it was the same way with Endgame, that it was just like, I can't do it. You know, the girls swoop in and save the day and blah, 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 blah. And the guys just couldn't get it done, but here's girl power, girl boss, woo! That it turned me off so much. I couldn't even enjoy the beginning parts of the movie that I had been enjoying.
Interesting. I feel like the
I did love Dad Bod Thor, though.
really?
Yeah, I did. I loved Fat Thor.
I thought it was silly. I just thought it was kind of useless. I thought this doesn't really fit Thor's character. That's my problem with it. Not like, like I just didn't think that Thor would mourn like that. He already lost.
Well, I mean, he lost his planet, his people, his family.
But he had already lost most of that prior. Like all he actually lost what in sort of what is it at the end of Endgame is the fact that he lost. Like just losing doesn't seem to me to put someone over the edge like that, to go from this amazing warrior to I've just lost all interest in the ability to live.
I think that comes from him. Like I've heard that before about him, but I think sometimes what people don't realize is that he could have stopped Thanos. He could have cut his head off before he snapped, and he chose to think, I can beat this guy without, like, I have my shot. He took it, and then Thanos snapped it, and I think that is what drives him, like more than anything else, where he's realizing half of the universe is dead now because I made a mistake.
Yeah.
And he's not used to making mistakes. He's not used to losing. And I think that is what drives him off the edge more than anything. I do have to wrap up here shortly, just so you guys know.
We'll be gone in a few. I just want to I do think that makes a lot of sense too. Thor also could have just cut off one of his hands too, with the gauntlet too. He could have done that as well. But anyways, Jesse, what's your least favorite?
Least favorite? So story wise, I would say Dark World. But my actual least favorite is Black Widow. And here's why I make the distinction. Because I love Taskmaster. He's one of my favorite characters in the comics. And not only did they gender swap him, they actually took, this is something not very many people realize. There's I wish I remember the name of the character now, but there's a character from the comics that basically lines up to who Taskmaster is in Black Widow. And they don't use her name. They changed. So basically they took this character, threw her in, changed her name to Taskmaster, who's already established. And I just thought that was so I know they're like, okay, more representation, let's do this whole arc of, the Dracov's daughter kind of thing. And at the same time, they were very blatantly saying, we don't trust this character to lead the marketing charge. So we have to call her an already established Marvel character. Otherwise, people won't be interested in it. Because that's what Taskmaster's a villain. All right, they're bringing him. And it wasn't him. And it wasn't even close. It was a completely different character. And that's why it's my least favorite. Even though it has my favorite opening sequence, my favorite opening credit sequence in all the MCU with what is it, the Nirvana deal.
Yeah. Well, Jesse, what up till Endgame? Because Black Widow's after.
Oh, you're right. I apologize.
Sorry about that.
I would say the Dark World then.
Okay. Yeah.
Also, Captain Marvel, I think, would be next, but again, not so much because of the story, but because I felt like that was just a very poor mistake to air that movie when it aired, because then it burdened the Russos with the Russos to have to figure out how to use her in Endgame. And the movie didn't add anything from a writing perspective to the franchise. I think they should have just saved Captain Marvel for the next phase. But
it's funny in the animated series, and Jesse, maybe we should do at some point just you and me talking about the animated series, the Avengers Earth Mightiest Heroes. But I thought her character is actually really good in that Earth's Mightiest Heroes, but it wasn't translated well into the movie.
I would agree with that. I think, I mean, I do like most of the other versions of Captain Marvel. But yeah, yeah, not yet with Brie Larson. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, Jesse, I'm fine if you want to get going. Hope and I can continue for a few more minutes. But will you remind everyone your channel, and so we can send them your way?
Sure. Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. Sorry to cut it short.
No problem.
Daventry Studios on YouTube. You can find both Bring on the Bad Guys and Fantastic First on there. And they are, well, I think they're good, but you can watch them and decide for yourself.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you for coming on, and we'll talk sometime again.
Yeah, it was
Absolutely.
good to see you, Jesse.
You too. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
So, where was I was thinking about something, Hope. Now I've lost it. Oh, Anthony is mad that we didn't invite him on. Did you see that?
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah.
He's also judging Rob for not sticking around in chat.
I'm slightly judging Rob for not sticking around in chat too.
We have almost no service in our neighborhood, so if we're not on Wi-Fi, we can't like stream anything. So that's his excuse when he was walking Maddie around, and then Maddie Man does not like to be ignored. That's a sure way to get kicked in the shin or punched in the stomach.
That's understandable, but also if Anthony's still here, he might have gone. I don't actually know, but we did discuss for a second inviting you on, Anthony. Maybe we should have done that. I got distracted in getting Jesse on and stuff like that. So apologies for that. Also, you have to get ready for the big episode tomorrow. So to be honest, just to wrap up a little bit, so Avoiding Babylon, which I will be appearing on tomorrow evening, is having Tim Flanders, and Eric Sammons, and is there anybody else, Hope? Am I forgetting anybody?
Oh goodness, I'd have to check the tweet. Let's see.
But I feel like that was it of the sort of very prominent people. Let me see. I don't know why Wi-Fi is being weird. And Jake Tate.
Oh, yep.
Yep. From Mass of the Ages. So there's that happening tomorrow. So please check that out. What is it? 6:50.
6:45,
Central.
6:50. We usually start.
And Hope will be in the chat probably. Right, Hope?
Yeah, because we won't have Maddie because he'll be with my mother-in-law probably. And
Gotcha.
Iggy will be in bed. So yeah, I will actually be able to be in chat.
Don says, you think he's actually preparing?
Yeah. Anthony, prepare ever? Never.
I don't know. But yeah, so I hope you guys all enjoyed this episode of Plotlines. Marvel's always an interesting topic, I think, to me. One of the things as sort of a aspiring writer, I had always been thinking when sort of Marvel had been coming out with like continually with good stuff, I was always thinking, okay, if I was in their situation, what would I write next? What would I do next? And to be honest, sometimes I'm like, if they would just give me a shot at one of the movies, it would be so much better.
You could probably do it better.
Especially like I would love to get my feet on a Spider-Man movie. But I would also do like a Nova movie, or I'm trying to think. I don't know. I just feel like they're not being that creative.
No.
They're taking the easy way out, it seems like. and that's not going to get them good reviews. That's not going to continue to make them money. The best movie out recently was the Spider-Man movie, and that was Sony. That was not Marvel. And people forget that. The sort of, they literally left a if I don't know if so the Thor Love and Thunder movie, the director basically went on a couple different like YouTube channels or whatever where he talked about how he made the movie and stuff like that, and he basically shows that he didn't know what he was doing, and he had no real plan for it, and most of it was done in reshoots or sort of from behind the scenes with like CGI and stuff like that, and it shows immensely. As I was saying with Jesse on, Chris Yost was the writer of Thor Ragnarok, and Thor Ragnarok was well written because Chris Yost knows how to write. He knows how to write Thor, and he knows how to write a lot of the sort of the Marvel characters. And basically, Taika Waititi is just he's not trying. He just wasn't trying.
I've been too afraid to actually watch Thor: Love and Thunder.
Yeah, it's not as bad as it could be, which is kind of interesting. Like, I feel like the sort of the recent tragedies of different movies and stuff like that, sort of the collapsing of a lot of movies, like Batgirl got canceled just outright. I don't know if you heard that. So they were making a Batgirl movie, and it cost $90 million to make, and they canceled it without. So it's never going to see the light of day, and it was $90 million.
Oh man!
So DC is panicking and destroying every garbage thing that they're trying to create, and I feel like Marvel's noticing that. Oh wait, all the woke stuff is kind of not producing what they want it to produce money wise, and then they're running out of characters. It just seems like they're setting themselves up for a complete bonfire, or just completely like a forest fire. It's currently a bonfire, it's controlled, but it's going to become a forest fire, and they're not going to be able to control where it goes.
Well, I mean, every attempt that DC's made to make like their extended universe, putting characters together in the same movie, has utterly flopped.
Well, the thing
is,
the
Justice League, Spider-Man versus Batman, all of them, or Superman. I mean, Superman v Batman. The Justice League movie. It's all just flopped because they don't have the background needed. Yeah, they didn't take the time and effort to do it.
The thing is that DC got changed hands and now is owned by Discover. And the new CEO basically is like, if it's not making money, it's gone. Like, he's like, I'm not interested in politics. I'm interested in money. So at least there's that. I mean, it could be worse. And to be honest, he might just be saying that to have a reason to get rid of all that stuff without having so much backlash.
Yeah.
Because he could be thinking, yeah, I just don't agree with this woke stuff. So I'm not going to have woke stuff come out of DC. Or he might just be thinking, I want money.
Yeah.
And I trust people.
Either way, if it gets the woke stuff out, and because I've kind of, besides Spider-Man, I've kind of always been a DC girl.
Okay.
Like I love Batman. I just everything DC I could get my hands on. And then the movies started coming out. And it was like, oh great, The Dark Knight. It was awesome. The Dark Knight Rises. It was still really good. And then everything since. It's like
Yeah, I feel like the Christopher Nolan movies were good, but I don't feel like they were really Batman movies. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like
I can see where you would say that. Yeah.
Like they just didn't really sit in sort of the Batman mythology. They just kind of took Batman and put on a different mask.
Yeah, more
or,
or less.
or actually they put on a Batman mask over something that was a good story, but
Mhm.
wasn't really Batman.
Yeah.
But yeah, so maybe we'll have to do a DC focused episode sometime
Works
in
for
the
me.
future.
I'll have to brush up on my comics.
You do that. That's your homework. My homework today was I watched Iron Man, I watched Captain America the First Avenger, and I watched the beginning of the Avengers. So
Nice.
though it was slightly tiring.
I envy you. I was stuck watching toddler stuff all day.
That sounds wonderful. Come on, that's
It's so annoying. If I have to hear bleepy one more time, I'm going to throw the TV out the window.
well, that can be a different episode.
The worst toddler TV shows. Do not watch if you value your sanity.
Yeah. How to find good toddler TV shows that don't make you want to throw the TV out the window.
Mm-hmm.
That can be a topic for another discussion. But yeah, so
Plotlines, Parent Edition.
Share and subscribe. And also an upcoming episode is with Apostolic Majesty. We're going to be talking about, we're going to be discussing Charles V, the Emperor of the Holy Roman Emperor and the King of Spain in the 1500s. So very, very different conversation than what we just had here. But I like that about my channel, is that we can be talking about pop culture one day and then history another, because everything has a story.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so Hope, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was fun.
Yeah. So any last words for the audience?
Be sure to tune in tomorrow night for Avoiding Bat